Hey, what's going on, everybody? Brent Hyden here, coming at you on this Saturday morning, talking tonight's 8-game slate around the association. Before we dig into the games, make sure that you are hitting that subscribe button down below. That way you will get notified every time I post a new video. Also, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button if you like the content that I'm putting out. Goes a long way to helping me produce more content. Also, if you're not already following me on Twitter, make sure that you hit that follow button. My Twitter handle at BrentHyden1 is in the description down below. While you're over there hitting that follow button, make sure you send me a direct message to find out how you can get access to my projections, Discord chat, and content, all for a very affordable price. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dig into the games. First game of the night, the lone 6 p.m. game, Phoenix at New Orleans. New Orleans, 10-point favorites in this one, 228 over under. A little bit of injury news with this one. Elfrid Payton is questionable. All reports have been that it is most likely that he will suit up in this game, but definitely some news to keep an eye on. And Nikola Mirotic is questionable for this one as well, dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury. But before we dig into the Pelicans side of things, looking at Phoenix, there are definitely some spots to love here, starting with Devin Booker. Booker at 8,300 on Draftkings, very, very affordable at that price. And if you're looking over on Fanduel at just 8,400, I absolutely love him in this spot. Going to be a core option for me tonight. I know that he's going to have to deal with Jrue Holiday defense for the majority of the game, but that really doesn't scare me that much just because Booker is virtually a matchup proof. It's going to be a fast-paced game. Pelicans have allowed shooting guards to post 22.1 points, 5.3 rebounds, 5.3 assists, and 45% shooting from the floor this season. Booker, 33% usage rate. Just a monster spot here for Devin Booker. So an option that I absolutely love in all formats. DeAndre Ayton as well. Very, very interesting here. Coming in at a very affordable price at $7K on DraftKings. He is 7,500 on FanDuel. Plenty of upside here in this spot. Obviously, it is a little concerning. He's going to have to deal with Anthony Davis down low. For a rookie, that does somewhat concern me. So maybe just a tournament option. But 20% usage rate, really, really good here. New Orleans giving up 16.2 points in the paint per game, giving up 44 rebounds per game. They rank 20th in defensive efficiency against centers. So really, really good spot for DeAndre Ayton. They're also really struggling against post-ups. 1.05 points per possession allowed on post-ups this season. 40% of his possessions come as a post-up. So definitely like Ayton. Ariza continues to play a ton of minutes, so someone that you can definitely look at here. Very, very solid floor option here. Transition game or fast-paced, transition-heavy game should really benefit him. So I really like Ariza. And TJ Warren coming off a really solid outing last time out. Still way too cheap across the industry for the upside that he has. 4,600 on FanDuel. That's like a free square in the spot. I know he's had some up and down games, but yeah, 4,600. Ridiculously too cheap there. Isaiah Cannon, another option here. Someone that is still way too cheap for the minutes he's playing. Obviously not a guy that we count on for a ton of upside, but when you're getting mid to high 30s, sometimes 40 minutes out of anybody at that price in a fast-paced game, really, really, really tough to get away from there. So I like him a little bit. And then if you're really trying to build a bunch of lineups and you're wanting to get a little bit of an edge, I think in tournaments, it would not be a terrible idea to look at like Richaun Holmes on DraftKings, where he is power forward and center eligible at 3,700. We know he can put up big games in limited minutes. It's just a matter of him getting the minutes. But if something were to happen with Ayton, like maybe he gets in foul trouble, we could see some extended run out of Holmes. So I like taking a shot on him if you're building multiple lineups. Over on FanDuel, where he's power forward eligible at 3,800, he could be one of your value options that you could drop the score if he sucks. But looking at the Pelicans side of this, I love Elfrid Payton if he suits up. Just triple-double upside, fast-paced game. Phoenix defense, absolutely terrible. Obviously, without any indication this early if he's going to be limited, if he's going to play, if his minutes are going to be limited, kind of makes it tough to discern whether he should be a cash or tournament play. But if Gentry comes out and says that Elfrid Payton is 100% ready to go, no minutes limit, 5,400 for Elfrid Payton in this game would be really, really tough fade. 69 on FanDuel, more of a tournament option for me, but over on DraftKings at 5,400 cash games, definitely someone that you can consider. I do love Mirotic if he plays cash tournaments. Really, really, really good option. Anthony Davis, it's Anthony freaking Davis. We saw him finally break out and have a monster game. 32 points, 15 rebounds. The field goal attempts had been there for him anyways. He was just dealing with that elbow injury. Looks like he's good to go. So I love Anthony Davis in all formats. DraftKings, I'm probably looking elsewhere just because James Harden, who we'll get to, is ridiculously underpriced. Kevin Durant in a really, really good spot, but really, really tough to overlook Anthony Davis here. So I like him a significant amount. Jrue Holiday, I do have a little bit of concern about the upside that he possesses if Elfrid Payton comes back, but this dude has just been so freaking consistent. Like, he is basically a lock for 40-plus fantasy points almost every single night. Going to play a ton of minutes. Field goal attempts are going to be there. He can, get you the peripherals, so I love him in all formats. Like I said, takes a little bit of a hit if Elfrid comes back, but still really, really good spot. If we get news that Mirotic is out, definitely look at Julius Randle. Randle at 6,200 on DraftKings tournaments, regardless of what happens with Nikola Mirotic. But if Mirotic is out, he would be someone that I would have a ton of interest in, even on FanDuel at his price and center eligibility. Really, really good spot for Julius Randle against the Suns. Each one more in cash is fine. Not really someone I'm looking at in tournaments. Moving on, we have Cleveland at Chicago. This game, pretty interesting. There's going to be a decent amount of stuff to talk about, and that starts with the Cleveland side. Chetty Osman is out. Kevin Love, obviously out. George Hill is out. Sam Decker is out. There are a ton of injuries on the Cleveland side of this game. Ton of injuries on the Chicago side, too. But a 213 over-under. Chicago favored by 5 in this spot. I'm definitely interested in a lot from Cleveland. Starting with Colin Sexton, obviously not a very good basketball player. He can get to the rim pretty easily, which is nice to see. He's going to take a lot of shots, going to play a lot of minutes. Obviously, we have Andrew Harrison, who is available to play in this game, but I don't foresee that taking a ton of minutes away from Sexton here. He's going to be popular, I think. I've seen him written up a couple times already today, and people are talking about how he's going to go overlooked. I don't understand. I don't understand how people are going to overlook him. I'm fine with him in cash. I don't think he has a ton of upside, so you can definitely fade him in tournaments. And like over here on DraftKings, Jordan Clarkson is my guy. Like, he was my guy the other night. He was significantly better than Sexton the other night. Monster usage, 30% usage rate, 1.01 fantasy points per minute with all these guys off the floor. Clarkson's the guy that I have the most interest in. He's a better basketball player than Colin Sexton at this point. So I have a lot of interest in him over Sexton in all formats. And over on FanDuel at 5,100, I love Jordan Clarkson there. Sexton a better play at 4,400 on FanDuel, so you could definitely roll him out in all formats on FanDuel. But Jordan Clarkson's still the guy I'm going to be looking at the most. Without the rest of these guys on the floor, you're going to get extra run for Rodney Hood, J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver. Those guards are all fine. They're all tournament options for me. None of those guys really stands out as a great option here. Tournament sprinkles if you want to get some exposure to those guys. I do really like Tristan Thompson here. We saw the minutes come up just because that rotation is going to be shortened. 5,300, Tristan Thompson on DraftKings, way too cheap. Excellent cash game option, excellent tournament option. 5,500, really, really good price on FanDuel as well. Chicago, not really great on the boards. I do like Wendell Carter Jr. a significant amount, but Chicago's still giving up 47.1 rebounds per game, 17.9 second chance points per game. This is a spot where I think Tristan Thompson has a ton of upside. I like him a significant amount here. I like Larry Nance Jr. We saw him get some run alongside Tristan Thompson. That's going to continue to happen. I expect his minutes to come up. Um, just because without Chetty Osman, there's not really a whole lot of other guys they can throw out there. So Larry Nance Jr. going to be someone that I have a ton of interest in as well. 4,600 on DraftKings. Very, very good price over there. He is 4,900 on Fanduel. Really tough to get away from him in this spot, especially whenever you consider Jabari Parker is going to be, uh, the guy that's defending him most of the time. So I really, really like Larry Nance Jr. in this spot. Looking at the Cleveland or the Chicago side of things, I think there's a little bit of an edge, and I don't think we're going to get news on this, at least not until closer to lock. At least I hope we don't. But Ryan Arcidiacono has pretty much taken over the starting role for the Bulls. He was practicing with the starters yesterday. One of the Bulls writers, Darnell Mayberry, hinted at the possibility a few days ago, that Arcidiacono could get the start over Cameron Payne today. I love Arcidiacono in the spot. 3,300 on DraftKings. Really, really, really good play, I think. 3,500 on FanDuel. One of my favorite options here. One of my favorite value options on the entire slate. 45% of his possessions come as spot ups. Cleveland is allowing 1.06 points per possessions on spot ups. 67% of his field goal attempts are 3-pointers. Opponents are shooting 41% on above the break threes against Cleveland. Cleveland struggles, obviously, to defend just about everybody. Arcidiacono, a guy that I have a ton of interest in here. If he's going to get like 28, 30 minutes here, really, 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 really good spot for him. So Arcidiacono, someone that's I think we can build around and will be like a monster edge in this spot, assuming we don't get news before lock. The rest, Zach LaVine, I don't really have to continue talking about how he has monster usage and like basically a 40 fantasy point floor. It's a great spot for Zach LaVine. If you want to play him, play him. That's really all it comes down to. Jabari Parker in tournaments is fine. Obviously, we've talked about it, but still takes a little bit of a usage hit and a production hit in that starting lineup, but it is still a really, really good spot against the Cavaliers. Wendell Carter Jr., a guy I really, really, really like. Still over on DraftKings, a little bit too cheap at 6,300. Over on FanDuel, 7,600. Still a little bit too expensive. Really, really good option, though. Really good cash game option. Just markedly consistent on the season. The Cavaliers do struggle to defend in the paint. They're allowing 19.2, or they're allowing 19 second chance points per game. Cleveland is also allowing 1.35 points per possession to the roll man. 25% of his possessions are as the roll man. So I do like Wendell Carter Jr. a lot. Justin Holiday is fine as a value option in all formats. And I mentioned Jabari Parker, just a tournament guy for me here. But moving on to a really unappealing game, Philly, Memphis. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this game. I'm not terribly interested in much of this game. Looking at the Philly side of things, Embiid and Simmons, obviously excellent options. It does concern me, coming off that game last night. Tournament options, of course, Simmons triple-double upside every single night, regardless of matchup. But this game is just rather unappealing. 210 over-under. Covington is fine. Did not have a very good outing last night. Got in a little bit of foul trouble early on, but generally a guy that you expect to play a decent amount of minutes. More of a cash game guy for me in the spot. I do think on the Memphis side of things, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a fantastic tournament option. We saw upside out of him. we've seen upside out of him a few times this season, but the last couple of games have been really, really good for him. He's actually been better as far as not getting in foul trouble. We know he has the steals and the blocks upside. At 5,200, Jaren Jackson Jr. in this matchup might be one of the better tournament options on tonight's slate. So I really like Jaren Jackson Jr. in tournaments. Marc Gasol, way too cheap on DraftKings at 7,200. Really good spot for him. 83 on Fanduel, a touch too pricey, but um, Philly, about league average defending centers. They're not as good on the boards as you would think, they would be with Joel Embiid. I think Marc Gasol in this spot could be a really, really solid cash game option, just a touch underpriced, I think, over on DraftKings. 6,700 for Mike Conley. Really, really, really good price there. More of a tournament option for me. Not really terribly appealing outside of that. So that's pretty much that entire game. I don't, like I said, don't really have a lot of interest in anyone from that game. Moving on, Washington at Miami. This game does have some appeal. Miami favored by 2.5, 223.5 over under here. Goran Dragic is questionable. Dwayne Wade not expected to play. Derek Jones Jr. questionable. I think that covers everyone from Miami. I'm sure news will come out and someone will be questionable or out because Miami just can't stay healthy. But looking at the Miami side of this first, the status of Dragic will kind of have an impact on how the rest of this game plays out. If he plays, I like him a significant amount in tournaments. It is a really, really good matchup for him. Washington ranks 30th in defensive efficiency to point guards on the season. They're allowing 31.4 points, 11.4 assists, 6.6 rebounds, and 40% shooting from three. Opponents are also shooting 62% at the rim against them. Dragic is attempting 35% of his shots at the rim on the season, and most of the other shots he's taking, 42% of them are three-pointers. Lines up to be a really, really good spot for Dragic. Unfortunately, coming off that injury, I do have a little bit of concern. So more of a tournament option, I think, at 6,500 on DraftKings and 64 on FanDuel. So someone to keep an eye on there. Tyler Johnson would be a great option in all formats if Goran Dragic were to sit. 4,800, just a little too cheap for 30-plus minutes in this matchup. 4,300, way too cheap for 30-plus minutes in this matchup. So if Dragic is out, definitely look at Tyler Johnson. Moving on to the other parts of this game, I still like Josh Richardson a significant amount in cash and tournaments, regardless of what happens with Dragic. Got in foul trouble yesterday, had just a poor game. I think that's going to keep people off of him, which makes me really like him even more. Really solid minutes floor, just a good spot for him. Again, Washington defense just absolutely putrid. Washington ranks 28th in defensive efficiency to small forwards on the season, so that makes Richardson a really, really good option. If you're looking over on FanDuel, Rodney McGruder, going to be a guy that I would be really, really excited about at that $4,900 price tag. Still just going to play a ton of minutes. So Rodney McGruder, way too cheap over on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's going to be a pass for me there. Wayne Ellington let everybody down last night in, typical Wayne Ellington fashion. 3,900 on FanDuel, excellent option there if Goran Dragic is out. 4K on DraftKings, not really looking there unless, again, in tournaments only for me if Goran Dragic is out. Olynyk and Whiteside, two guys that I would consider in tournaments. Whiteside, obviously, I am always concerned that he could get played off the floor in a matchup like this where Washington can go small. We actually saw them go really small last night, and that obviously concerns me. Didn't necessarily happen last time these teams played. Whiteside got in foul trouble, only played 28 minutes, only had 22 fantasy points, but we know Whiteside has monster upside, so tournaments only there. Same with Kelly Olynyk and Justice Winslow. Looking at the Washington side of things, Wall with 50-plus fantasy points in back-to-back games, really, really appealing at 8,800. excellent tournament option, excellent cash game option on DraftKings. Fanduel, just a tournament option at 10K. A good spot for him, though. Miami really has struggled against point guards on the season. 25% of his possessions and come in isolation. Miami is allowing 1.13 points per possession in isolation. Bradley Beal, 7,500 on DraftKings, cash games, tournaments, fantastic option. Again, just going to play a ton of minutes. This team sucks. This team needs Beal and Wall to play a lot of minutes, and if he's going to be playing 40 minutes a night, 7,500, really tough to get away from. Even at 8,600, cash games, tournaments, great option there. Porter, always tournaments, just it's Otto Porter. I don't really have much to say. Otto Porter sucks, and it's really, really tough to ever trust him. But yeah, same with Markieff Morris. I do like him. Again, I've talked about it several times already, but getting a little bit more run with the second unit that helps his usage. Not the greatest matchup for him, but he's fine in all formats. Dwight Howard in tournaments did not get the run that we expected last night. Looked really good when he was on the floor, but yeah, just has been a monster letdown for the season. So tournaments only for me there. Moving on to a more appealing game, we have Brooklyn and Golden State. Lots of injury news to talk about in this one. Starting with the Golden State side, I think Stephen Curry is going to be out. Draymond Green is out. Sean Livingston is out. Damari Carroll, I don't expect to suit up for Brooklyn after playing last night. Golden State, 6.5 point favorites, 226.5 over under. Over here on DraftKings, Quinn Cook, 4,200. Outside of like Arcidiacono, one of my favorite cash game and tournament values. Really, 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 really good spot for him. 4,400 on FanDuel. Yeah, he's going to be a core option for me. Dating back to last season, Cook averages right about a fantasy point per minute, but you expect him to get a lot of minutes tonight. So especially without Livingston, they don't have really anyone else to handle the ball. So he's going to get a ton of run. We saw him only get right around 20. Let me see. What do I have him projected for? He is projected for, give you guys a peek into my projection model. I have him at 31 minutes. So, and I might actually bump that up. Like, we might get some Jacob Evans, a few minutes out of Evans, and a couple of these other guys. But, yeah, 30-plus minutes of Quinn Cook against the Nets. I know the Nets have been better this season, but, yeah, give me all the Quinn Cook here. Kevin Durant, usage boost, 30.6% usage rate without Green and Curry on the floor, dating back to last season, 1.34 fantasy points per minute. Really, really good option on both sites. 10-7, really good spot for him here. 11-2, really good spot for him here. I love Kevin Durant in all formats. Pricing is kind of weird because you have like James, Durant, Paul George all really, really closely priced. And then you have Anthony Davis at 12-4. I'm leaning towards and then you have James Harden at 11-4. I'm leaning towards Durant in the spot, but you could probably build around like LeBron and Kevin Durant on FanDuel and feel pretty good about your lineup. I haven't really tried, but I'm sure it could be done. Outside of those guys, I still really like Alfonso McKinney. Field goal attempts were there for him. Got in the the low 20s last game. But the 2 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 7 from 3. If he sinks 3 of those shots, one of those being a 3-pointer, he's paying off his salary easily. I really, really like him in the spot. Really looked good against Brooklyn last time out. Gonna get some run here. I don't really see how he doesn't get a significant amount of run. Again, with the rest of these guys out, I have him at 28 minutes. I'm fine with Alfonso McKinney once again. I'm fine with Jordan Bell. I'm fine with Kevon Looney, Damian Jones, all these guys. Where they fit your lineups, I'm completely okay with. Damian Jones at 3,200. he's probably going to get over 20 minutes tonight in a decent matchup. So Damian Jones, a guy to definitely consider as well. Looking at the Brooklyn side of things, opens up more minutes if Damari Carroll is out. It's going to open up a few more minutes for like Rondé Hollis Jefferson, who is in an absolute smash spot. I know the minutes have not really been there for him, but this is a really, really good spot for him without Draymond Green in the lineup. I love Rondé Hollis Jefferson, especially in tournaments at 4,500 and 4,800. Could definitely just smash that salary. So Rondé Hollis Jefferson, a great tournament option. I'm fine with him in cash too, but I love him in tournaments for sure. Russell coming off a really good game. Has still struggled to get the minutes, but the field goal attempts and the usage are good, are there for him. He's going to play, upwards of 28, closer to 30 minutes most nights. Excellent matchup here, especially if you expect the Nets to be able to keep this game close, which they should. Russell and cash is fine at that price, 5,800. That's just really, really, really cheap. 65 tournaments only on Fanduel. Same with Dinwiddie, 5,400 tournaments only on Fanduel, but 58 and 47, those two guys in cash on DraftKings, I'm completely fine with. Karis LeVert should be able to get to the rim with ease against this team whenever, without Draymond Green being on the floor. I love him in all formats. And Jarrett Allen, still a really, really good option, has been playing really, really well recently. Last 3 games have been great for him. I like him a significant amount as well. Same with Alan Crabb, I think is a great FanDuel punt here. Moving on, we have Houston and San Antonio. This game is definitely interesting on at least one site, especially DraftKings. Houston 1-point favorites in this one, 208 over under, and DraftKings and all their awesomeness and glory, putting that rake to great use, has James Harden at $9,600. Let me just pause. 9,600 for James Harden. This guy has 100 fantasy point upside. I'm not even kidding. Like, he has 100 fantasy point upside. Like, has not looked great. The Rockets have not looked great, but yeah, 9,600 for James Harden. I have a very, very hard time not just locking him in a game against a San Antonio defense that is giving up 110 points per game. Their defense is not good. Yeah. James Harden on DraftKings, probably hitting that lock button. FanDuel, I could understand fading because he's more expensive, but yeah. Still has monster, like I said, still has monster usage. 31% of his possessions come in the pick and roll. San Antonio is allowing 9.94 points per possession in the pick and roll. Yeah. I did mention Houston has looked terrible. It's worth noting that at some point in this season, not saying it's going to happen tonight, it could happen tonight, but San Antonio's effective field goal percentage is about 5% lower than it should be, based on where they're taking their shots and where they're getting their shots at. So that should increase. So you would expect about a 5% increase in their scoring. Yeah, could happen tonight. Chris Paul, 7,600. I like him in cash. I like him in tournaments. 8,200. Like him in cash. Like him in tournaments. Really good spot for him. Still, San Antonio, terrible defense. Clint Capella, I like a significant amount. Obviously, we watched Whiteside just eat whenever LaMarcus Aldridge was in the paint. 6,500, way too cheap, I think, for Clint Capella. Way too cheap, I think, here. Basically like a 30-point floor and monster upside. So Clint Capella, someone that I have a ton of interest in on DraftKings. 8K on FanDuel, more of a tournament option for me there. The rest of Houston, PJ Tucker, it's fine. No one else is really that appealing. Um, San Antonio side, we have Rudy Gay and Pau Gasol both being out. That opens up minutes for Davis Bertans, who we saw have a really, really good game against Miami. I'm completely fine going back to the well with Davis Bertans. Unfortunately, you're at the mercy of Popovich. But if he's going to take, 10 shots again, he's done that back-to-back games. If he's going to play 26 minutes, 3,900 in a game against a defense that has been absolutely terrible this season, again, I'm perfectly fine with it. 42% of LaMarcus Aldridge's shots come at the rim. Opponents are shooting 70% against the Rockets at the rim. Rockets are allowing opponents to get to the rim about 40% of the time. LaMarcus Aldridge at 8K, way too cheap. I know he's been terrible most of the season, but he is, again, this is another one of those, he's just really cheap. 26% usage rate without Gay and Gasol on the floor. Really tough to get away from him here. I love him in all formats. I love DeMar DeRozan in this spot. DeRozan, 37% usage rate without Gay and Gasol on the floor, has shown off massive, massive upside. 9,400 for a guy with 60-plus fantasy point upside. He did it. He's done it like 3 or 4 times already this season. I really, really like DeMar DeRozan. If you can fit him in your lineups tonight, really, really good spot for him there. Bellinelli, a guy that I have a little bit of interest in, 1.08 fantasy points per minute with Gay and Gasol off the floor. Not a ton of upside, but going to get mid-20s in minutes. So someone that you can definitely consider there. Moving on, Oklahoma City and Dallas. Not a ton of interest in the Dallas side of this game. OKC favored by 1, 218.5 over under. Dallas does have a couple of injuries with Devin Harris expected to play. Luka Doncic is questionable. Wesley Matthews is questionable. DeAndre Jordan is fine in cash. Has at least 10 or more rebounds, 11 straight games. Decent spot for him at 7,200. I don't hate the price tag on him there. Over on Fanduel 7,900. I'm probably going to pass. Luka and Dennis Smith Jr., just guys that are just like tournament options for me. Oklahoma City's defense really, really good. Even without Roberson, they've just been, their length just gives teams so much trouble. I just don't have a lot of interest in this Mavericks team. So it's interesting to know in the first 2 games that Westbrook has missed, the Thunder have allowed an average of 83 points. They just held the Rockets to 80 points. Their defense is good. Just not really interested a whole lot here. Barnes is fine in cash just because he's going to play a ton of minutes, take, a decent amount of shots. It's fine. On the Oklahoma City side of things, monster usage from Paul George, 32.6%, 1.21 fantasy points per minute. Without Russ on the floor, 1.08 fantasy points per minute, and 31% usage, 31.6% usage for Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder at 7K. I expect him to bounce back from this game, 28. Just going to take a lot of shots. Really, really good matchup. Dallas really struggles to defend point guards. Their defense is terrible. I love Schroeder and Paul George. Hey, what's up, guys? Apparently, the last 5 minutes or so of the video breakdown that I recorded had some audio issues right about the point where I was talking about Jeremy Grant being someone that I had a lot of interest in. So I'm going to cover that part once again real quick. I made sure to cut off that video right about that point so you guys don't blow out your eardrums. But I was talking about Jeremy Grant as someone that I liked because the Mavericks are allowing opponents to shoot 45% from 3. They're allowing 1.26 points per possession allowed to spot up shooters. So that makes Jeremy Grant and his almost 36% spot up frequency and ability to hit from the corner someone that I have a decent amount of interest in this matchup against Dallas. Same with Alex Abrinas, someone that I think is a great tournament option here. I also was not able to clear up the audio portion of that for the Lakers and Kings game, so I'm going to talk about that here real quick too. Lonzo Ball is questionable for this game. I don't expect him to actually play, dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury. He's also afraid to face De'Aaron Fox again. This game has a 240 over under. Lakers are favored by just 6 points. If Lonzo Ball sits, Rajon Rondo at 5,100 on DraftKings and like 5,600 over on Fanduel, way too freaking cheap. I'm going to be mashing that lock button on Rajon Rondo if De'Aaron Fox sits. All formats, I don't care about his ownership. I'm fine with him in cash in tournaments, even if Lonzo Ball, even if we don't get news that Lonzo Ball is out. I think Rajon Rondo in a great spot. It is a revenge game for him. Um, if you want to build off that narrative. I do love LeBron James here as well. Just a really good spot. Has scored at least 24 points in 9 of the first 11 games of the Lakers. The pace of this game is not going to pretend to anybody playing defense. Both these teams giving up over 116 points per game to opponents. LeBron James should have absolutely no issues putting up a monster game here. On DraftKings, I like James Harden a little bit better. Kevin Durant and LeBron James are kind of like a toss-up. I think either is perfectly fine in all formats. And if you're looking over on FanDuel, I think you can build around James and Durant pretty easily with the value that's already available on the slate. Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma, two guys I do have interest in if they just kind of fit your lineups, or if you're building some tournament stacks. I think both of those guys are perfectly fine. I'm leaning towards Brandon Ingram being the slightly better play, but I do like both of those guys in this spot. And then JaVale McGee coming off two bad games. Should be able to bounce back here. The Kings have really struggled against centers on the season. They're giving up 48.1 rebounds per game. They lack rim protection. Opponents are shooting like 66% against them at the rim. 70% of McGee's shots come at the rim. So behind Rondo and LeBron, he is like the third option on the team for me. So those guys are fine. On the Sacramento side of things, I absolutely love De'Aaron Fox. Continues to be underpriced for the upside that he possesses. 7,100 on DraftKings, very good price. 7,400 on FanDuel, very good price there. 40% of his possessions come in the pick and roll, and I've talked about it several times already, but really efficient operating out of the pick and roll for De'Aaron Fox, and the Lakers struggle to defend in the pick and roll. They're giving up like 0.9. 0.9 points per possession in the pick and roll. So allowing people to be rather efficient in the pick and roll. So I do like De'Aaron Fox a significant amount here. Willie Cauley-Stein, still too cheap, still lots of upside. In a spot against a Lakers team that's 40% of his possessions come as the roll man or posting up. Lakers 1.32 points per possession allowed to the roll man, 1.06 points per possession allowed on post ups. So I like him a significant amount too. And then Bjelica and Buddy Hield, really strong options here. Buddy Hield especially. Lakers have really struggled against shooting guards on the season. They're struggling to defend the 3-point line a little bit. So really good option for a really good spot for Buddy Hield. And then Bjelica, again, I really like as well. And if you're building tournament lineups or just game stacking this, I don't hate taking a shot on Marvin Bagley for GPPs. So he has pretty good upside in this spot as well. But that was a quick rundown of what I liked about those couple of games. I'm going to hopefully be able to splice this video together, and hopefully it won't be in 2 parts for you guys. But good luck in all your contests, and I will be back on Monday.